Hello, today we will be discussing the different bones inside of the body. The first bones we will be starting with are the cranial bones. The first bone is the frontal bone, which is this green section right here. This orange section is the parental bones, which are on both sides of the skull. This lighter purple section is the occipital bone underneath the skull. And then this darker purple is the temporal bone, which is also on both sides of the skull. This right here is the sphenoid, and then this little yellow circular dot is the ethmoid bone. The next type of bones we will be going over are the facial bones. This is the nasal, which we have two of. This blue section is the lacrimal. This light green section is the zygomatic bone. This is the maxilla, and then this is the mandible. Next we will be discussing the ear bones, which are this part right here is the incus, and then this circular long part is the malleus, and then right here is the stapes. We have two of all three of these, considering we both have 2 ears. Next we will be discussing the throat bone. This is the hyoid, which is in the throat. Next we have the bones below the head. This would be our scapula. This part where I am pointing at is the acromion. Right below it is the coronad process. And then this little smooth divided section is the glenoid fossa. This section right here is the subscapular fossa. Next we have the clavicle. So on this end we have the octerminal end, and then this line right here is the trapezoid line. This little colored in section is the clenoid tubercle. Then over here in this colored section we have the clavicle lavament, and then this is the sternal end of the clavicle. And then what we have next are a thoracic bone. Up top we have the membranium, and then this would be the body of the sternum, and this is the xiphoid process. However, this part usually breaks off of the sternum. The next thoracic bone we will be talking about is the ribs. We have true ribs, which are the top blue section, which are vertebral ribs. In the green section down below are the false ribs. And then the yellow section on the very bottom are the floating ribs, which are not attached to the costal cartilages. And then we have the parts on the actual ribs themselves. This part up here is the tubercle on the top of the rib. And then down here we have the costal groove. Next we have the cervical vertebrae. This section right here is the body. These two holes are the transverse process. This pointy part is the anterior tubercle, and this part is the posterior. And up here is the spinous process. The groove that is right here is the pedicle. We have 7 cervical vertebrae in our spine. Next type of vertebrae we have is the thoracic vertebrae. So up here we have the body of the vertebrae, we have the pedicle, we have the superior articular fossa. Down here we have the spinous process, and the center right here is the vertebral foramen. And we have 12 thoracic vertebrae in our body. Next we have the lumbar vertebrae. Up here is the body. This is the vertebral foramen. That's the accessory process. Down here is the spinosus process. Part is the transverse process. And this section within here is the pedicle. Now we are moving on to the bones in our arm, which is the brachial. Up top, next to the right here is the greater tubercle. And right within here we have the radial groove. On here in the notch, this is the occlusal fossa, and this is the groove for ulnar nerve. This blue part is the head of the humerus, and then the notch down here is the medial epicyle, and this is the lateral epicyle. And then right here is the capillosum. The next bone in our brachial in the forearm is the radius. Up top here is the radial head. This is the surgical neck, then the radial tubercle, and then along here we have a nutrient foramen, which is almost like a hole through the bone, and down here at the bottom is the styloid process. Next is the ulna, which is right next to the radius in our forearm. This up here is the occlusive process, and then this is the tracheal notch. This is the coinoid process. Down here on the bottom is the head of the ulna. Next in the arm is the carpals. Then in the hand, we have the metatarsal bones, which are right here with the lines on them. Right here is the proximal phalanges. These are the middle phalanges, and these are the distal phalanges of the hand. Next, we have the pelvis, and this part up here is the ilium. This is the iliac crest of the pelvic. This part right here is the iliac spine. And then we have the pubis bone. Right here is the acetabulum. This part right here is the ischium. Next, we have the femur, which is one of our leg bones. This up here is the head. This area right here would be the neck. This section is the greater tubercle. This section is the lesser tubercle. This is the shaft of the femur. Then down here we have the epiphysis of the femur. The next part of the leg we have is the patella, which is our knee. Next we have the tibia. Right here is the medial condyle. This would be the lateral condyle. This part over here is the tibial tuberosity. And this bottom section down here, this pointy part, is the medial malleus. Next we have the fibula. This part is the head of the fibula. This part right here is the neck of the fibula. This part throughout here is the shaft, and this part is the distal end of the fibula. Next we have the ankle. So this part right here is the talus, and then next this bottom part is the calcaneus, and then next is the foot, the middle foot, and then on to the middle of the foot is the metatarsal bones, which are right here, and then these are the phalanges, which are our toes. To end this video, that was all of the bones inside the human body.